I'm really curious from your perspective. You just mentioned a bit about these sort of rah-rah sessions, but I want to know from your perspective what you've
Mm,
seen really work and
mm,
what should people be ditching when it comes to developing sales teams. So what works and what should they ditch? And also too, what are the right learning systems or support systems to have in place? So a bit of a loaded
mm.
question, but knock yourself out on that one.
Yeah, gee, wow. How many questions were in that question, Sue?
Oh, well, there's probably more than even the ones I asked. So let's have a look at what's really working. So what have you found actually does work to build sales mastery and capability? And also, what do people need to ditch?
Yeah. Look, there's definitely not any space for the one size fits all anymore. I know that to be true, and I've seen it, and I've seen sales teams really, really struggle with this sort of magic formula that has held them, up high for many, many years, and now they've had to rethink and change. So there's a lot of very stressed salespeople out there who are anxious and really not sure where they need to go. And it doesn't really matter what profession you're in, the world of work is changing. So that whole coaching approach to sales development, I think, is so key. You've got multiple scenarios and situations. You've got a variety of customer demographics and complexities that people need to navigate. So the time is really nigh because we've got some really experienced people in the workplace. All the Gen Xers are coming up into their 50s. They've seen, the greatness of the past. And, ideally, if they're wise, they are forecasting and seeing what's ahead. And because of all of the experience they've had, ideally, if we can develop them to be great coaches, they're going to do a fantastic job bringing up the next generation of sales folk, and they will behave and operate in a completely different way. And this is some of the areas that I see at times where when it all gets too hard, everyone stops and thinks back at the glory days and how wonderful it was. And we just don't have time to do that. We really, really have to be future focused. And it's always good to look over your shoulder, but leaning into the future and really getting very comfortable with understanding human behaviour and team behaviour, and not just working in a silo, really, really partnering with all of the teams and the enablers. I mean, sometimes, as you know, Sue, sales gets all the accolades, it gets all the spotlight, and there's all sorts of wonderful trips and prizes and awards. And I know that the other people who help them, such as the marketing team and the ops teams and things like that, often kind of miss out and they don't get the big pay packets. And there's so many changes that are going to come about through this sort of new sales philosophy. Who knows? The roles are going to be reinvented, the price points, the value that they bring to the table. It's a bit of a moving feast, but it's quite exciting and interesting. And I think that at the end of the day, you're going to have a much more centred, focused, people-oriented sales environment. It won't be, and it can't be as cutthroat as it's been in the past. It just won't work. And consumers are very savvy. They're very, very smart. They can see through, the lack of authenticity. They're not going to want to work with companies who don't show up and, bring the real deal to the conversation. They're not going to want to work with companies who don't care about things like, alignment of values and things like that. The rules have definitely changed, and we're just starting to see the beginnings of that ripple effect.
What I'm hearing is, and this is what we've been noticing too, and obviously endorse, is about a human-centered approach to selling.
Mm.
Rather than it just being transactional, we're seeing the formation of these relationships. And also what we're seeing is this move away from the individual salesperson to
Mm.
now teams of people working to serve the customer. And so I'm also curious too from how we actually going to keep learning, because what you're talking about here is acquiring and developing skills that are quite high order in terms of
Mm.
working and understanding people, dealing with complexity, solving problems, having that business acumen, dealing with an array of capabilities. So there's always going to be something to learn and practice.